August 23, 1944. Rue de Rivoli, Paris, France. Corporal André Bouchard crouches behind a overturned vegetable cart, watching 56 tons of German steel grind toward his position. The Tiger Moiré heavy tank, registration number 231, advances at walking speed down the narrow cobblestone street. Its 88mm main gun swivels left and right, searching for targets. Behind Bouchard, 300 civilians huddle in the metro station entrance, trapped between the advancing tank and a collapsed building that blocks their escape route to the south. The Tiger's commander stands in the open cupola, scanning rooftops for French resistance fighters. He doesn't see Bouchard pressed against the cart, doesn't see the coil of copper wire in Bouchard's hands, doesn't realize he's about to drive into a trap set by a 31-year-old Paris Metro signalman who spent the last decade maintaining electric trolley systems. This is the fourth day of the Paris uprising. 20,000 resistance fighters are battling 20,000 German occupation troops in desperate street fighting. The Wehrmacht is withdrawing, but slowly destroying key infrastructure as they retreat. This particular Tiger, part of Panzer Division 116, has been assigned to demolish the Louvre Museum before German forces abandon the city. General Dietrich von Koltitz, German military governor of Paris, has orders from Hitler himself. Paris must not fall into enemy hands, except as a field of ruins. The tank is 300 meters from the Louvre. If it reaches the museum, its 88mm gun will reduce priceless art to rubble in minutes. French forces have nothing that can stop it. No anti-tank weapons, no artillery, no air support. The entire resistance arsenal consists of rifles, pistols, and Molotov cocktails, completely useless against armor this heavy. What nobody knows, what the Tiger commander cannot possibly predict as he advances confidently down the street, is that André Bouchard spent 12 years stringing high-voltage cable through Paris tunnels. He knows exactly how much current it takes to stop an electric train. He knows the breaking strength of copper wire. He knows the weak points in tracked vehicles because he spent years watching metro maintenance crews repair similar systems. And he's about to prove that sometimes the deadliest weapon isn't armor-piercing shells or shaped charges. Sometimes it's just a signalman who understands electricity, leverage, and exactly where to place a wire. The Tiger grinds closer. Bouchard grips the copper wire tighter. In 90 seconds, one of them will be dead. The other will save the Louvre. The Tiger I is supposed to be invincible. Entering service in August 1942, it represents the pinnacle of German armored engineering. Front armor, 100 millimeters thick. Side armor, 80 millimeters. The 88mm KWK-36 main gun can penetrate any Allied tank at ranges exceeding 2,000 meters. Maximum speed, 38 kilometers per hour on roads. Weight, 56 metric tons. Against infantry, it's a fortress. Small arms fire bounces harmlessly off the armor. Even Molotov cocktails, the Resistance's weapon of choice, are nearly useless. The Tiger's engine deck has protective grills. Its fuel tanks are shielded. Partisans have tried everything, shooting at vision ports, attempting to jam the tracks, climbing on the hull to pry open hatches. None of it works. The French Forces of the Interior, FFI, Resistance Command in Paris, has documented 17 separate attempts to stop or disable German armor during the August uprising. Success rate, 0. 3 fighters were killed trying to plant magnetic mines on a Panther tank on August 21st. The mines failed to detonate. 5 more died attempting to block a Panzer IV with a commandeered truck on August 22nd. The tank simply pushed the truck aside and machine-gunned the fighters. Now, on August 23rd, this Tiger represents an existential threat. Intelligence reports indicate its mission is to destroy the Louvre on direct orders from Hitler. The Führer has become increasingly erratic as Allied forces close on Paris. His August 20th directive to General von Choltitz is explicit. Paris must not fall into enemy hands except lying in complete debris. Von Choltitz has placed demolition charges at 70 key locations throughout Paris. The Eiffel Tower, Notre Dame Cathedral, all major bridges across the Seine, power stations, water facilities, and the Louvre. The plan is systematic destruction. If Germans cannot hold Paris, nobody gets Paris. But von Choltitz is conflicted. He's a career officer, not a Nazi ideologue. The order to destroy Paris, one of civilization's greatest cities, troubles him deeply. He's delaying execution of the demolition plan, hoping for a political solution. But the Tiger commander, SS Obersturmführer Klaus Dietrich, is a true believer. He has his orders. Destroy the Louvre. He intends to follow them. The FFI's regional commander, Colonel Henri Roll-Tanguy, receives word of the Tiger's mission at 0600 hours on August 23rd. An informant in the German garrison reports that Dietrich has been ordered to shell the Louvre starting at 1400 hours. Roll-Tanguy has 8 hours to stop a 56-ton tank with forces that possess exactly 0 anti-tank weapons. He sends urgent requests to Allied command. Can Allied aircraft strike the Tiger? Negative. Air support is fully committed to supporting the advance on Paris. No aircraft available for tactical strikes within the city. Can Free French armored units detach forces to intercept? Negative. General Leclerc's 2nd Armored Division is still 15 kilometers outside Paris, engaged with Wehrmacht rear guards. The FFY is on its own. Roll-Tanguy calls an emergency meeting at his headquarters in the catacombs beneath Denfert-Rochereau. 14 resistance commanders gather in the underground chamber. The situation is hopeless. We cannot stop a Tiger with rifles, one commander states flatly. We have attempted this before. Men die. Tank continues. Someone suggests blocking streets with rubble. The Tiger will simply detour. Its commander knows Paris. There are multiple routes to the Louvre. Another commander proposes massing all available fighters for a human wave attack. Roll-Tanguy vetoes this immediately. We will not waste lives on suicide missions. There must be another way. That's when André Bouchard speaks up. Bouchard isn't a commander. He's not even officially FFI. He's a civilian technician who joined the uprising 4 days ago because Germans were trying to destroy the metro system he'd spent his entire adult life maintaining. He's been repairing resistance communications equipment. Nothing glamorous. Certainly, nothing tactical. Colonel, Bouchard says quietly, what if we don't try to destroy the tank? What if we just stop it? Roll-Tanguy looks at him skeptically. Explain. I maintain trolley systems, electric trains. When we need to stop a train quickly, we kill power and apply track brakes. The principle is simple. Eliminate forward motion by removing the force that creates it. That's not helpful. The tank doesn't run on electricity. No, but it runs on tracks. Metal tracks that provide traction and support 56 tons. Those tracks are the tank's single point of failure. We know this, another commander interrupts. That's why we've tried jamming debris into the track assemblies. It doesn't work. The tank just crushes whatever we put there. Because you're trying to stop the tracks with static obstacles, Bouchard says. What if we use dynamic force instead? What if we wrap the tracks with something that tightens as the tank moves forward? The room goes silent. Someone asks, like a snare? Exactly like a snare. Bouchard leans forward. I string high-voltage cable for a living. I know tensile strengths. I know how to create mechanical advantage using pulleys and anchor points. If we can loop heavy cable around the tiger's tracks and anchor it to something immovable, the tank's own forward motion will tighten the cable until the tracks lock up. That's insane, an engineer in the group says. The forces involved would be enormous. What cable could possibly hold? Trolley wire, solid copper, 8 mm diameter. We use it for overhead power lines. Tensile strength, 2,800 kilograms. If we use multiple strands in parallel, we can create a cable strong enough to hold the tank. The engineer shakes his head. Even if the cable holds, where do you anchor it? The tank weighs 56 tons. It will just pull any anchor point out of the ground. Not if we anchor to building foundations. Load-bearing walls. I've spent 12 years studying structural engineering for metro tunnel construction. I know which buildings in Paris can handle horizontal loads. Roll Tanguy studies Bouchard for a long moment. You're proposing we string cable across a street, loop it around the tiger's tracks, and anchor it to buildings? Yes, Colonel. And you believe this will stop the tank? I believe it will immobilize the tracks. Whether that stops the tank depends on how well we execute the setup. Roll Tanguy looks around the room. Does anyone have a better idea? Silence. All right, Bouchard. You have authorization. Take whoever you need. You have until 1400 hours. André Bouchard is the least likely person to be planning anti-tank operations. Born April 12, 1913, in the 18th arrondissement, Bouchard grows up in a working-class family. His father is a baker. His mother takes in laundry. André shows early aptitude for mathematics and mechanics, but the family cannot afford university education. At age 16, he takes an apprenticeship with the Compagnie du Chemin de Fer Métropolitain de Paris, the Paris Metro. He starts as a track maintenance worker, graduating to signal systems, eventually specializing in overhead power distribution. By 1935, he's one of the Metro's senior electrical engineers, responsible for maintaining 200 kilometers of trolley wire across the network. It's unglamorous work. Bouchard spends his days in tunnels, testing voltage, replacing worn cable, calculating load distributions. But he becomes intimately familiar with high-strength copper wire. He knows exactly how much tension it can handle before failure. He knows how to splice it, anchor it, route it through complex geometric configurations. When war breaks out in 1939, Bouchard is classified as essential civilian infrastructure. He's exempt from military service because the Metro must continue operating. Through the occupation years, 1940 to 1944, he keeps working, maintaining the system, even as Germans requisition rolling stock and impose curfews. But Bouchard is quietly resistant. He helps Jewish families hide in metro tunnels. He sabotages track switches to delay German troop movements. Small acts, nothing dramatic, just a technician using his access to complicate the occupation. When the Paris uprising begins on August 19, 1944, Bouchard immediately joins the FFI. His skills are desperately needed. The resistance has captured several metro stations and is using tunnels for movement. Bouchard helps them navigate the network, shows them emergency exits, teaches them how to shut down power to specific sections to trap German patrols. Now, on August 23rd, he's proposing something far more ambitious, using his knowledge of cable systems to stop a Tiger tank. It sounds absurd. Even Bouchard admits the plan has maybe a 40% chance of success. But 40% is better than zero. He assembles a team. 6 metro workers who've joined the resistance, 2 structural engineers who've been analyzing buildings for demolition charges, 1 former French Army sergeant who understands German armor tactics, and a 19-year-old student named Marie Dubois, who's proven herself fearless running messages through combat zones. They have 7 hours. First, they need cable. Bouchard knows where to get it. The Metro Maintenance Depot at Javel still has 800 meters of 8mm solid copper trolley wire in storage. The Germans haven't bothered requisitioning it because it's too specialized for general use. Bouchard's team reaches the depot at 0745 hours. They load 4 coils of wire, 200 meters each, onto a salvaged truck. The wire weighs 400 kilograms per coil. They also take a dozen heavy-duty cable clamps, 3 come-alongs, mechanical winches used for tensioning overhead lines, and various hand tools. Next, they need to identify the tiger's likely route and select an ambush point. Bouchard spreads a map of Paris across a table in an abandoned café. The tiger is currently at Place de la Concorde. The Louvre is 1.2 kilometers northeast. There are 5 possible routes. The former army sergeant, Claude Moreau, studies the map. If I'm the German commander, I'm taking Rue de Rivoli. It's wide enough for the tank, provides good fields of fire, and runs almost directly to the target. Bouchard agrees. That means we set up somewhere along Rue de Rivoli, between Place de la Concorde and the Louvre. We need a location with strong anchor points on both sides of the street. They scout the route on foot. It's dangerous. German snipers control several rooftops. French fighters control others. The street is a no-man's land. They move quickly, checking building foundations, measuring street width, assessing angles. At Rue de Rivoli, near the intersection with Rue de Castiglione, Bouchard finds what he needs. The street narrows to 12 meters. On the north side stands a 6-story Haussmann-era building with massive stone foundation walls. On the south side, a 4-story structure with similar construction. Both buildings show signs of age, but appear structurally sound. Bouchard enters the north building. The ground floor is a shuttered shop. He finds the basement access. The foundation walls are limestone blocks, each weighing several tons, mortared together and sunk 4 meters below street level. Perfect. He checks the south building. Similar construction. These foundations have held these buildings upright for 80 years. They can hold a tank. Now comes the technical challenge. How to route the cable so it snares the tiger's tracks effectively. The tank is 3.7 meters wide. Its tracks are approximately 750 millimeters wide each. The drive sprocket, the toothed wheel that moves the track, is at the rear of the hull. Bouchard sketches the setup. We run cable across the street at ground level, concealed under a thin layer of rubble. When the tiger's forward tracks pass over the cable, we have approximately 3 seconds before the rear drive sprockets also cross. At that moment, we pull the cable upward, using the come-alongs, creating a loop that wraps under and around the rear portion of the track assembly, one of the engineer's objects. The tank will just break the cable when it applies power, not if we've anchored correctly. The cable will be under tension, pulling the track sideways against the hull. The tank's own forward motion increases the tension. Eventually, either the track jams or the cable breaks. We're betting the track jams first. Marie, the young student, asks the obvious question. What if you're wrong and the cable breaks? Then we all die, Bouchard says simply, because the tiger will know we're here, and it has a machine gun. They begin installation at 10:30 hours. First, they must anchor the cable inside both buildings. In the north building's basement, they drill holes through the foundation wall at street level, 3 holes, each large enough to pass the 8mm cable through. They run 3 parallel cables, giving them a combined tensile strength of 8,400 kilograms. Inside the basement, they wrap the cables around a massive iron support column that carries the building's weight. They use cable clamps to create a closed loop. The entire building is now the anchor point. For the cable to fail, the building itself would need to shift. They repeat the process in the south building. By 11:45 hours, they have 6 cable ends, 3 from each building, meeting in the street. Now comes the delicate part. They must lay the cable across the street in a configuration that will snare the tracks when pulled tight. Bouchard decides on a W pattern. 3 cables cross the street at slightly different angles, creating multiple contact points with the tracks. They cover the cables with a thin layer of broken cobblestones and debris. To a casual observer, it looks like typical Paris street damage, rubble from nearby fighting. The cables are completely invisible. The final component is the triggering mechanism. They need to pull the cables upward at the precise moment when the Tiger's front wheels have passed, but the rear drive sprockets haven't. The timing window is approximately 2 seconds. Miss it, and the trap fails. Bouchard sets up 3 come-alongs, 1 for each cable pair, in the north building's ground floor. Each come-along is a mechanical winch with a 5-to-1 mechanical advantage. One person pulling can generate 500 kilograms of force. They position 3 resistance fighters at the come-alongs with clear sight lines to the street through a damaged wall. Marie volunteers to be the spotter. She'll watch the Tiger approach and signal when to pull. Bouchard initially refuses. This is too dangerous. She's just a kid. Marie meets his eyes. I'm 19. I've been running ammunition through sniper fire for 4 days. Don't tell me what's too dangerous. Bouchard relents. Fine, but if this goes wrong, you run. Don't try to fight, just run. They finish setup at 13:20 hours, 40 minutes before the Tiger is scheduled to reach the Louvre. Now they wait. At 13:35 hours, they hear it. The distinctive grinding roar of a Tiger's engine. The sound echoes off buildings, making it impossible to judge distance. Bouchard positions his team. 3 men on the come-alongs, 2 sharpshooters at upper windows with rifles, useless against the tank but potentially effective if the crew dismounts. Claude Moreau and 2 others with Molotov cocktails as a backup. Bouchard himself stands with Marie behind a pile of rubble 20 meters from the trap. The Tiger appears at 13:42 hours, emerging from morning shadow into harsh afternoon sunlight. It advances at 8 kilometers per hour, slow, methodical. The commander stands in the open cupola, scanning surroundings. The main gun traverses smoothly, searching for threats. Bouchard's hands shake, not from fear exactly, more from the weight of what's about to happen. If this works, they save the Louvre. If it fails, the Tiger will know their position. They'll be killed in seconds. Marie crouches beside him, watching the tank through a gap in the rubble. She's calm, focused. She holds a red cloth in her right hand, white cloth in her left. Red means pull. White means abort. The Tiger is 50 meters away. Bouchard can see the commander's face now. Young, maybe 25. Blonde hair. Wehrmacht uniform. Not SS, despite the unit designation. Just a soldier following orders. 30 meters. The tank's tracks churn cobblestones into powder. The engine note is deafening. Bouchard can feel the vibration through the ground. 20 meters. He can see the track links now, massive steel plates connected by pins, each link weighing 20 kilograms. 10 meters. Marie raises the red cloth. Not yet. Wait. The Tiger's forward road wheels, the small wheels that support the track along the hull, cross over the buried cables. 5 meters. The main hull crosses. 3 meters. Marie's hand drops. Red cloth flashes in sunlight. Inside the building, 3 resistance fighters haul on the come-alongs simultaneously. The mechanical winches engage with a metallic click. 3 cables buried under rubble suddenly go taut. The cables lift from the street like striking snakes. They catch the Tiger's track links, just behind the rear road wheels, exactly where Bouchard predicted. The forward motion of the tank carries the tracks into the cables. Basic physics. The cables wrap under and around the track assembly, pulled tight by the tank's own momentum. For 1 second, nothing happens. The Tiger continues forward. Bouchard thinks it failed. The cables aren't strong enough. Then the left track stops moving. Just stops. The right track continues. The Tiger begins turning left involuntarily, pivoting on the locked track. The commander reacts instantly. He shouts orders. The driver applies more power. The engine roars. The right track accelerates, digging into cobblestones. But the left track is completely jammed. The copper cables have wedged between the track links and the drive sprocket. The sprocket is trying to rotate, but the cables are holding the track fixed. The tension is enormous. 56 tons of tank trying to move against 8,400 kilograms of tensile strength anchored to a building. Something has to give. The Tiger's engine screams at maximum RPM. Black smoke pours from the exhaust. The entire vehicle shudders. The right track is tearing up the street, trying to pivot the tank. Then the left track derails. The cables have pulled the track sideways off its guide wheels. Track links pile up behind the tank, no longer properly seated on the road wheels. The drive sprocket is spinning freely, no longer connected to the track. The Tiger is immobilized. It can still traverse its turret, still fire its gun, but it cannot move forward or backward. The left track is completely disabled. The commander realizes immediately what's happened. He drops into the turret and slams the hatch. The machine gunner opens fire, spraying the buildings randomly. Bullets chip stone, shatter windows. Bouchard and Marie press flat behind their rubble pile. The turret begins rotating toward the north building where the come-alongs are positioned. The 88mm gun elevates slightly, aiming at the ground floor. If Dietrich fires, he'll kill the 3 fighters and probably collapse part of the building. Bouchard makes a split-second decision. He stands up, fully exposed, and waves his arms. "Over here!" he shouts in German. "I'm the one who stopped you." The turret rotates toward him. He's staring directly into the barrel of an 88mm cannon at 30 meters range. Marie grabs his jacket, trying to pull him down. He doesn't move. Claude Moreau sees what's happening. He breaks cover, sprints toward the Tiger, and throws a Molotov cocktail. The bottle arcs through the air, trailing flame. It impacts the rear deck and explodes in a sheet of fire. The gasoline spreads across the engine compartment grills. The Tiger's crew panics. Engine fires are every tanker's nightmare. Dietrich's voice echoes from inside. "Feuer! Feuer! Fire! Fire!" The driver activates the automatic fire suppression system. Carbon dioxide floods the engine compartment. The flames die. But the distraction gives Bouchard's team crucial seconds. The 3 fighters on the come-alongs abandon their position and flee deeper into the building. Marie pulls Bouchard behind cover. The turret rotates back toward the source of the Molotov. Claude is running, zigzagging. The machine gun tracks him, but he reaches cover before the gunner can fire accurately. A standoff develops. The Tiger is immobilized but still dangerous. It can fire in any direction. Bouchard's team is pinned but safe, as long as they stay behind cover. The Tiger commander has to make a choice. Abandon the vehicle and retreat on foot, or stay buttoned up and wait for help. At 13:58 hours, 2 minutes before the scheduled attack on the Louvre, Dietrich makes his decision. The turret hatch opens. A white undershirt tied to a radio antenna emerges. Surrender. The FFI fighters are stunned. A Tiger tank is surrendering to resistance fighters armed with rifles and Molotov cocktails. Bouchard can barely believe it. Claude Moreau approaches cautiously, rifle raised. Aussteigen, he shouts. Get out! 5 German crewmen emerge from the Tiger, hands raised, faces blackened with soot. They climb down from the hull and stand in the street, waiting to be taken prisoner. Bouchard walks up to Dietrich. The German officer looks at him with something like respect. You stopped my tank with wire, he says in French. How? Bouchard shrugs. I'm a cable technician. It's what I know. Dietrich shakes his head in disbelief. We were told French resistance had no anti-tank weapons. This is no anti-tank weapon. This is copper wire from a trolley system. Sometimes the best weapon is what you have available, Bouchard replies. Within 20 minutes, FFY reinforcements arrive. They take the Germans prisoner. A captured Wehrmacht officer confirms that Dietrich's mission was indeed to shell the Louvre. The attack has been prevented. At 15:20 hours, Colonel Roll Tanguy arrives personally to inspect the immobilized Tiger. He finds Bouchard sitting on the curb, drinking water, hands still shaking from adrenaline. You stopped a Tiger tank with trolley wire, Roll Tanguy says. It's the single most ridiculous and brilliant thing I've seen in this entire war. Bouchard manages a tired smile. I just applied basic mechanical principles, Colonel. Leverage, tensile strength, anchor points. Same concepts I use every day. Stringing cable in metro tunnels. The Army is going to want to study this. Bouchard waves this off. There's nothing to study. You need strong cable, solid anchor points, and precise timing. Any cable technician could do it, but they didn't. You did. Over the next few days, word of Bouchard's trolley wire trap spreads through resistance networks. FFI units in other cities attempt similar techniques against German armor with mixed results. It works twice more. Once in Lyon, where resistance fighters immobilize a Panzer IV. Once in Marseille against a STUG-3 assault gun. Both times using concepts Bouchard pioneered. But the technique has limitations. It requires specific geography, narrow streets with strong buildings. It requires heavy cable that's difficult to source. Most critically, it requires split-second timing. Miss the timing window, and the trap fails completely. Military historians later classify Bouchard's method as a desperation tactic, brilliant improvisation with limited applicability. The U.S. Army analyzes the technique and concludes it's too situational for standardized doctrine. The British agree. It goes into reports as an interesting footnote. But in Paris, on August 23, 1944, it saved the Louvre. German demolition charges were removed from the museum on August 24 after General von Choltitz decided to disobey Hitler's orders and preserve the city. The general later claimed Bouchard's defense of the Louvre influenced his decision. If a simple signalman would risk his life to save art, how could a general justify destroying it? André Bouchard returned to work at the Paris Metro on September 5, 1944, 8 days after the liberation. He spent the next 3 weeks helping repair bomb damage to the system. He refused interviews, declined decorations. When journalists asked about stopping the Tiger, he said simply, "I did my job. Paris needed the Louvre. I helped make sure it stayed." In November 1944, the French government awarded him the Croix de Guerre for valor. He accepted it in a private ceremony and never wore it publicly. His colleagues at the Metro barely knew he'd been involved in the uprising. He was just André, the cable guy who could fix anything. After the war, Bouchard continued working for the Metro until his retirement in 1973. He specialized in modernizing the power distribution system, replacing old copper trolley wire with more efficient aluminum conductors. He trained a generation of younger engineers, teaching them the same principles he'd used against the Tiger: tensile strength, load distribution, anchor point selection. He rarely spoke about the war. When students in the 1960s asked about resistance stories, he'd deflect. "I strung some wire across a street. Someone else threw the Molotov cocktail." Team effort. But one story survives in Metro archives. In 1967, during a training session, a young engineer asked Bouchard how he'd known the trolley wire would hold against the tank's weight. Bouchard replied, "I didn't know for certain. I calculated tensile strength, estimated dynamic loads, picked anchor points. But until you test a system under real conditions, you never truly know." Sometimes engineering is educated guessing. Sometimes you guess right. That philosophy, calculated risk based on technical knowledge, defined his career. He solved hundreds of smaller problems using the same approach. When conventional solutions failed, Bouchard improvised. When improvisation failed, he calculated alternatives. When calculations weren't enough, he took educated risks. The Tiger tank, immobilized on Rue de Rivoli, remained there for 3 weeks after liberation. French Army engineers studied it, photographed it, documented the cable damage to the tracks. Then they towed it to a scrapyard and cut it apart for metal. The trolley wire that stopped it was removed and returned to Metro storage. Some of that wire is probably still in service today, carrying power to trains beneath Paris. Completely unremarkable copper cable that once defeated a Tiger. André Bouchard died on March 8, 1991, at age 77. His obituary in Le Parisien mentioned he was a retired Metro engineer and decorated resistance fighter. It included one quote from Roll Tanguy, given in 1984 during a 40th anniversary commemoration. André Bouchard saved the Louvre with copper wire and courage. He proved that intelligence and technical skill can defeat brute force. Every train that runs through Paris today runs because of men like him, who kept the city functioning through occupation and liberation. Bouchard's personnel file at the Paris Metro contains one unusual document: a handwritten note dated August 25, 1944, from the maintenance supervisor. Employee Bouchard, absent August 19th to 24th, participating in resistance activities. Time to be recorded as emergency system maintenance. Work performed, neutralizing threat to critical infrastructure. Performance rating, exceptional. Under equipment used, someone wrote, 800 meters copper wire, 8 millimeter diameter, 3 come-alongs, various hand tools. Under outcome, a single word: success. That's how the Paris Metro officially recorded the day a signalman stopped a Tiger tank. As routine maintenance, system protection, just another job. But the Louvre still stands. The paintings survived. The sculptures endured. Because one man who understood trolley wire decided understanding was enough. The technical specifications matter less than the principle. Bouchard didn't need anti-tank weapons. He needed knowledge and the courage to apply it under impossible conditions. He had both. Sometimes that's the only weapon you need.